And we're back.
With the Duelist.
Part 3.
Dee Dee, this is the Divine
Mysteries.
What's
up with you with a name?
The Mysteries. I don't... listen, it's been an exhausting, grueling day.
Yeah, it has.
And the 13 gates of 13 gates, 13
stations.
13 stations.
You gotta get it together.
13 stations of the cross.
Okay.
So at this point, we have been through the 13 stations of the cross. The person's still laying on the slab. This is when I put the power into them. But before I put the power in, we call upon the apostles again to create a barrier between heaven and earth, between light and dark. Because at this stage, the soul, the body, the initiate has been reborn, rebirthed, totally vulnerable to anything coming in. Not just the powers that I'm giving the initiate, but also of the demons and the evils out there that are out there, and they want nothing more than to distract the light and to take every soul that they can from the light. So they will come to you and they will devour your soul. They will possess you. So we need to call upon the 12 apostles. They form a circle. They form a barrier of light that will keep out the dark entities.
Now, how bad is it that these these demons, like, are they hardcore out to get them? Do they smell them?
Yeah,
Do they know?
So
they come from all over.
They smell like eggs and sulfur. They come from all over. They come from earth. They come climbing out of the pits of hell. It's like a meal for them. It's like
it's not like a meal. It's like a treat.
Like a treat. Like you would stick a steak in a pack of wolves. There's they want to come get it.
Okay. Wow. So basically,
so that's why we need to form
magnet.
You're
a magnet.
Yes, basically for evil, and so that's why we need to form the barricade of the 12 apostles. So that's.
I have a question for you. When the apostles are there, standing around the person, do you also see the demons standing around them? Do you
Absolutely, you'll see the demons behind the apostles because the white light of the apostles. Are so strong.
Now, I remember you and I talked about the view of demons before. Now, the person going through the transformation will not see the demons, will they?
No, they won't see the demons.
But you do.
I will see the demons.
And is that because you had the transformation and you're able to look at them without...
It's because I'm the duelist. I can see good and evil. I can see
but it's... I know when we were talking about it before, you said you can never imagine fully how evil these beings look.
Yeah, you can. It's like the most evil thing that you've ever seen. They're nasty. They're grisly. They got.
Well, they're all different though too.
Yeah.
But
they're all different. They smell. They stink. They take on many different forms. Some of them are demons.
But people to look at them would probably freak out and lose their mind.
Or have a heart attack. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
it's not something.
So it's not like something you're gonna see on a horror show, like this is something you can never imagine.
Yeah, it's not like one of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you see a couple dark shadows. It's nothing like that at all. It's so much more epic than that.
Okay, so epic is the word you use.
Yes.
Okay, so now if you guys want to grab your pen and paper.
Yes, right now you need to have your pen and paper, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through a list of the powers that you get through the infusion of power I give you once you become a full-fledged and dedicated initiate.
Okay, so if you've grabbed your pen and paper, I'm going to go through them. I'm going to give you just a little highlight here. Clairvoyance, control of the aura, psychometry, control of the elements, alchemy, levitation included, etc. Levitation, prophecy, counseling, spiritual gifts, as well as communication and dreams, spirit and angelic communication, healing by magnetized articles. That's going to be interesting. Gifts of healing and more gifts of healing. So here's where you want to have your pen. First, am I supposed to read these off to them? Is that what you want me to do?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll go through clairvoyance. Okay. Now you can find this in Matthew chapter 3.
Yes.
Verses.
Oh
my God, I'm terrible. Verses. It really has. Verses 13 through 17. Luke chapter 1, verses 39 through 45. John chapter 4, verses 4 through 42. Acts chapter 16, verse 9. To control your aura, Matthew chapter 14, verses 34 through 36. Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 8. Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. Psychometry, John chapter 4, verses 16 through 9. Luke chapter 2, verses 36 through 40. Matthew chapter 20, verses 17 through 19. Acts chapter 6, verse 5. Acts chapter 8, verse 5 through 40. Acts chapter 21, verse 8. Now,
so basically what that means is the Bible was written for its followers to know things like don't steal, don't judge, stuff like, the stuff you've learned ever since Sunday, or maybe you didn't go to Sunday school, but basically the indoctrination to the Christian beliefs. But it was also written by a group of clerics and scholars that were under the direction of the Holy Ghost to write it in such a way that people that achieve a divine, powerful enlightenment will be
can get these things.
Yes, they will be able to read through, and they will be able to read them, the powers as they exist, and they will also be able to obtain those powers, which is essentially what the transformation does.
So this is why some monks and stuff are able to do levitation.
Right, yeah, monks, the Gnostic...
And magicians are able to do alchemy because they have gone through something kind of like your transformation that they've achieved.
Right.
So with that, we go into control of the elements, alchemy, levitation, very unusual types of magic, which you can find in Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33, Luke chapter 8, verses 22 through 25, John chapter 2, verse 1 through 12, John chapter 6, verse 1 through 14, John chapter 6, verses 16 through 24, Acts chapter 5, verses 19 through 21. And then we get into prophecy, which is Luke chapter 1, verses 67 to 80. The counseling of yourself and others, John chapter 4, verses 16 through 26. Acts chapter 5, verses 3 through 6 and 9 through 10. Spiritual gifts you will find in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 1 through 30. And then we get into, now for those of you who don't believe in any of these things, it is written, like it is real. Higher communication in dreams. So to be able to communicate with other spirits and things that are coming at you. Higher communication in dreams would be found in Matthew chapter 1, verses 20 through 25. Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. Matthew chapter 7, verse 19. Now, spirit and angelic communication you would find on Matthew chapter 26, verse 53. Matthew chapter 28, verse 9. Mark chapter 16, verse 20. Luke chapter 1, verses 1 through 38. Luke chapter 4, verses 10 through 11. Mark chapter 16, verse 20. John chapter 14, verse 26. Acts chapter 11, verses 12 through 15. Acts chapter 4, verse 31. Acts chapter 8, verses 26 through 30. Hebrew chapter 1, verses 13 and 14. Now, we get into healing by magnetized articles. You got a fly bugging around you? The gnat. Healing by magnetized articles. Matthew chapter 14, verses 34 through 36. Acts chapter 19, verses 11 through 12. Gifts of healing. A lot of Matthew and a lot of Mark, Luke, and John. So there's a lot of healing. Something's biting me. And I'm going to give you those healing ones as well. Gifts of healing, Matthew chapter 9, verses 27 through 30. Matthew chapter 9, verses 32 through 33. Matthew chapter 8, verses 28 to 32. Matthew chapter 17, verses 14 to 21. Matthew chapter 9, verses 2 to 7. Matthew chapter 8, verses 14 to 15. Mark chapter 8, verses 22 to 25. Oh boy, John chapter 5, verses 8 to 9. John chapter 4. I mean, it goes on. Luke chapter 17, verses 11 to 19. Luke chapter 9, verse 2. Luke chapter 10, verse 9. Luke chapter 7, verse 1 through 10, Luke chapter 8, verses 43 to 48, and there's more. There are tons and tons more where you're able to experience different realms, lights, phenomenal, apportation, miracles. Like, there is just so much. So I'm going to cut this off here. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about, because I'm done reading. So it's a little bit hard for me to read your writing too, but good thing you went over them with me. And how you put them into them and what he's doing now, as of now, because his transformation was done today. We will be right back with part 4.